The world is waking up to the power of tokenization. From currencies to carbon credits, real estate to shareholdings, any asset can now be represented digitally by a token. Central and commercial banks, asset managers and companies of all sizes are embracing the benefits of these digital assets and improving liquidity, cost efficiency and transparency as a result. But until now, creating secure tokens and managing them required a high level of investment and specialist knowledge unique to each blockchain, and any mistake could expose your assets to risk. Now, with Overledger platform from Quant, you can create and deploy enterprise-grade secure smart tokens for any use case on any chain. All of this with zero coding, and your tokens will always be blockchain agnostic and behave as you determine. And there's no compromise on security or functionality. Overledger embeds trust and adaptability into the tokenization process of our function-rich smart contracts, so you can leverage the power of tokenization with confidence and create the future. Overledger platform, the enterprise standard for building on blockchain.
In China, no wallet, no problem. Here, using an app on your phone to make purchases, from taxis to fast food, is an everyday practice. Virtual payments here go back to 2004, when e-commerce giant Alibaba launched its online payment platform Alipay. In 2021, Alipay reported more than 700 million active monthly users. WeChat, a popular social media platform owned by tech giant Tencent, introduced its mobile wallet, WeChat Pay, in 2013. It currently boasts more than 800 million users. But in the almost 2 decades since the introduction of online payments to Chinese users, the industry so far has been dominated by private companies. That could soon change. China's new digital currency, known as the Yuan, made headlines at the Winter Olympic Games. Backed by the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, the Yuan is a centralized virtual form of currency that can be used just like money across the country. Development of the Yuan began in 2014. In 2020, usage trials began in 10 cities across the nation. The rollout is a big deal for China, making it the first major economy to create an official digital version of its currency. Here in the bubble, it's cash, credit, or Yuan. The digital currency is one of 3 payments options available to international travelers when making purchases of things like souvenirs, food, or drink. But the added COVID restrictions and rules may have muted the international debut of the digital currency. Even outside the Olympic bubble, usage is limited to a small fraction of the population. But even though this may not be the splashy international debut that China had hoped for, analysts say China will still view the launch at these games as a success.
China has already tested its new digital currency with over 150 million people in China. Many millions of renminbi have been paid using its new digital currency in pilot testing. I think the rollout at the Beijing Olympics is designed in some ways to show the flag internationally, to say, this is a technical achievement, look what we've done. But I think China and its central bank, the People's Bank of China, really want to show off this technology. It's quite an achievement.
China may be the first, but other parts of the world have similar ambitions. The European Central Bank announced plans to create a digital version of the euro, aiming to achieve this milestone by 2026. The United States, the world's biggest economy, is currently in the research phase of its own digital dollar, but will not yet proceed, citing concerns around financial stability and privacy. Why does China want to create this central bank digital currency?
What a lot of people don't realize is that most of the money transacted today, it's already digital. Even if you're using a plastic card, that is just transmission of data. The Chinese system is completely centralized and has the same value as a regular renminbi. This is really maintaining the power and control of the party over the monetary system, but creating a new payment tool.
Chinese officials have touted the digital yuan as a futuristic currency that will make buying more convenient and secure. But it would also give Beijing an unprecedented amount of information about where people are and what they spend their money on, raising serious concerns over government surveillance.
So I don't think there's any chance that this would be anonymous. and would note that every payment mechanism, every digital payment mechanism that's widely accepted around the world has some degree of government surveillance because we don't want it to be used for money laundering.
The Olympic Games have long been used as a global stage to show off technological breakthroughs. As recently as Tokyo 2020, a 3D tracking technology developed by tech giant Intel was used to show viewers at home precise details of an athlete's movements. While in 1964, when Tokyo became the first Asian nation to host an Olympic Games, the nation showed off its bullet train technology to the world. And here in Beijing, the 2008 Games are remembered for extravagant pageantry. They were the first games to be broadcast in high definition. And technology was even used to control the weather, seeding clouds ahead to reduce smog and avoid rain ahead of the event.
So I think officials look back at the 2008 Olympics as China's kind of coming out party on the global stage, showing a much more advanced, much more assertive country. And I think that they really take pride in the leading role that the ECNY has in the central banking community.
Hello, everyone. Max here for some breaking quant news. So let's just jump right into that. So I saw this earlier today, and I said to myself, my goodness, what the heck is going on with QNT? Well, apparently there's something massive going on. So here it is, straight from this guy, who is Mr. Dr. Profit, right? He says, from China, the city of Shenzhou announced that all civil servants will receive their full salaries. Listen to this, guys. In CBDC Yuan, apparently that's the right way to pronounce it, CBDC Yuan, in May 2023, which is roughly in 2 weeks, two and a half weeks. Now, guys, before we jump more into this, I want to state this. Remember, we said that some big things are going to happen for Quant when it comes to this coming summer. Be on the lookout for some of the things that they're doing with the CBDCs, right? So apparently, this is happening a lot faster than most of us expect. Currently, pilot tests occurs in 17 provinces all over the country. Of course, this is all in, I imagine it's probably in Mandarin, right? We went further down into this, right? It says only use their country, not RMB, right? This guy, Dr. Profit, says all civil servants in Shenzhou will receive their full salaries in CBDCs from the beginning of May 1st of this year. Are you kidding me? When is May 1st? Well, May 1st is literally 1 week exactly from tomorrow, right? Of course, this is, again, from, I imagine, Mandarin. You can look more into this if you want. We're going to take a deep dive into this sucker, 100%. So when I got more into this, I said to myself, well, Frankie responded. He's part of our community. He says they will likely choose tech in the next 2 to 3 months for the entire country, right? Again, the QNT connection. Then boom, out of nowhere, I didn't summon him. He summoned himself. Shout out to the great Quant Papa. I love it when they call me Quant Papa, right? Quant Papa shows up. And boy, does he ever show up. Let's jump into this. So he's got this whole outline, right? And I mean, it's big stuff, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for you guys. And here you go, all right? Central bank digital currency, CBDC landscape, all right? Tier 2 architecture. You go further down into this, right? Remember how we talked about MIT? They, basically had, I don't know if it was Gilbert Verdian or Martin Hargreaves, but the whole thing was there was all that testing of, Project Hamilton. And we already, provided the connections, connected the dots when it came to, hey, guess what, guys? MIT is working with Quant. Also Quant is working with the New York Federal Reserve. But, all three of them a few months back were testing all that stuff. Remember? That was a big thing towards the end of last year, right? So look what's mentioned here. It says IBM, Quant, Tradelens, Swift, right? Digital Dollar Project, SATP. Remember, Tokenizer was a guest on a Tuesday about 2 or 3 weeks ago. in regards to SATP, and we said it was big, right? Absolutely big, right? Well, if anything, I'm going to jump back into this particular outline, okay? So, yeah, let's do just that, all right? So, you know, just like anybody, you want a source, right? You got to have a source. I mean, you could claim all sorts of stuff. You got to have a source. So this guy Yamamoto says, what document comes, you know, what's, you know, screenshots or didn't happen. That's a popular thing. You know, shout out to all you guys who play COD, right? Quant Papa is right on top of it. He says page 71, IPVX+.net, blah, 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 right? So we're going to pull that up. Okay. And on this, it comes up with this thing. And there's a lot to be mentioned here, right? And let's see here. As we're pulling it up, yeah, he said page 71. Excuse me. Let's jump back to that. So I'm typing 71. Here it is, a lot more crystal clear, right? And if anything, I'll try to blow it up just a tad bit more. Give me a second for that thing to go away. All right. I think, and there we go. So you have, again, MIT, IBM, Quant, right? You have some mentions of like Mozilla, stuff like that, right? But it's definitely there, right? Now I want to show you something that's a little bit more juicier, if you will, okay? Because this is about the wholesale CBDC network. So we jump back, all right? Any idea, you know, like Frankie says, any idea? Let me jump back. Any idea what this says? Anyone, right? He just jumps right to the good stuff. And here is the real good stuff. This is the stuff that you should be like, yeah, this is what we want, right? So let me blow that up just a tad bit more. All right. Scroll further down. All right, here's the juicy stuff. Who's the implementer, right? So in the interpretation, this basically means like who's implementing this. Remember how we were talking about that at the beginning of the show? Shout out to Henry, right? So the implementer is MIT, IBM, and even Quant. You know, and Mr. Cornwell mentioned for countless times, watch out for IBM. They've been working on this stuff for, you know, years, way before everybody else has, right? How about the deployer, right? So the implementer is MIT, even IBM, like it says Quant. How about the deployer, right? Actually also is IBM, Quant, this other company called TradeLens/Maersk, which I have heard a little bit about Maersk in the past. About the observer. The observers is Swisscom, Swift, Digital Dollar Project, and even the government of South Australia, all right? Well, you know, you go further down into this, big mention of SATP. And again, we already understand how big SATP is in regards to, you know, for like Quant and so on. And they have that connection to who? The IETF. Why is that big? IETF, guys, we already talked about this quite a few times. IETF are literally the pioneers of the internet before the internet was even what we knew it to be, right? We're talking about, they've been around since like the mid 1980s, for crying out loud, right? So this is big, massive stuff, to say the least. We're going to jump back to a little bit more what we have for this particular outline. Give me just a moment to do so, all right? And yeah, I mean, it's really something else, right? So like, you know, everybody's thanking Dr. Profit. I think I retweeted some of his work. I'll have to give him some thanks because that was pretty big, right? But don't think that's it. We have a lot more when it comes to this, right? So I decided to take a little bit more of a deep dive into this, right? Shout out again to Quant Papa, okay? So what you see here is he says their Quant YouTube decided to become active again, right? Like what's up with that? So I decided to take more of a deeper dive into that. And here it is. So literally, what is it today? 22nd, 23rd? Okay, 23rd, 3 days ago, under the radar, Quant comes out with this video. And I'm going to share this video with you. Smash that like if you haven't done so already. Guys, I'm telling you flat out, we've connected the dots numerous times. This basically pounds it home that much more. Here we go.
this is a new, it's a new form of money. It's a new payment instrument. And with that, it's going to be treated the same as underlying national critical infrastructure. And with national critical infrastructure, you have the concept of trust, that you can trust that your money is safe, it's deposited with the banks, and when you make a transaction, there is acceptance, and it is processed as it should, and the whole underlying system is safe. So central banks, one of the biggest concerns is resilience of the system, and having a CBDC in Bahamas or another jurisdiction go down doesn't really help the use case and the adoption question, because people need to trust the system, and when you don't, I mean, we've been very lucky in the UK. We've had almost about 100% uptime in resilience without any impact to the payment system for the last 15 years, and that's very hard to achieve, very costly to achieve, but the trust is there in the system.
All right, a little bit more when it comes to our outline with this, right? So we're gonna get into that right now, and on this next particular one, you're gonna see a few more things, okay? So we shared the whole thing with that recent video clip from YouTube. I want to jump to this, and again, sometimes you just got to have a blast from the past, to say the least, right, when it comes to this. So let's jump to this. This is straight from Quant Network. A reminder of the past. FinTech Circle names Quant a fintech for good. This is December of 2022, a few months ago. There's a whole documentary film about this whole thing, right? Having a positive impact on the world, so on and so forth, right? Now, look what's mentioned here. Again, I want to pound it home a little bit more in regards to anybody having any doubts about Quant and CBDCs and so on. So it says, we chose to showcase our work with LAC chain, right, in Latin America and the Caribbean area. We're helping to create new digital payments network will transform lives and markets by enabling seamless cross-border transactions and even expanding access to financial inclusion to millions of people. Quant CEO Gilbert Verdian told the FinTech Connect audience, quote, transforming financial services is complex. Our mission is to make that simple. It says, watch the documentary. Well, in reality, this is just like a short clip from this, right? If you're wondering about LAC chain, like it mentions, they are a global alliance for Latin America and the Caribbean led by the IDB lab. Here's some highlights from that particular video. Let's play that.
Making cross-border banking services accessible and reliable is paramount to driving growth and development across the globe. Quant is working to create a new digital payment network that will transform lives and markets by enabling seamless cross-border transactions and expanding access to financial inclusion to millions of people.
Today's modern payment system makes almost everything easier. In London, riding the underground means a simple touch of your phone or bank card at the turnstile. But as digital payments get faster, some regions of the world are in danger of being left behind. In Latin America, around half of people don't have a bank account at all, and about 80% don't have a credit card. That means hundreds of millions of people without access to crucial financial tools like payments, loans, or money transfers. The team at Quant believes blockchain technology can bring financial inclusion to the entire region, going beyond the traditional banking system to help serve the so-called unbanked.
By implementing blockchain technology, they're able to leapfrog all the legacy infrastructure and the barriers that they've had in the past to real world, real time, and digital assets in a very short period of time, benefiting people by having better payment systems to facilitate more innovation, stronger GDP growth, and allowing for seamless trade between the different parties.
Quant founder and CEO Gilbert Verdian is an expert in using blockchain for payments. Blockchains are like digital records, storing information about transactions or contracts. Quant's platform called Overledger makes developing for different blockchains easy. It links them and other legacy systems together, allowing financial services to cross digital and physical borders.
Our approach is bringing the technology to the masses, and you can't be limited by geography. The very nature of blockchain is global, and the very nature of how society and businesses operate today is through globalization is also global.
Now, Quant is providing digital payments for an ambitious project called LACchain, which links 12 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, along with scores of regional institutions, businesses, and governments.
So in a region as Latin America and the Caribbean, where there's different countries, where different currencies, different jurisdictions, we have always tried to build LACchain as an infrastructure that could allow, the development of solutions that would help cross-border payments and financial inclusion.
LACchain will give anyone with a smartphone the power to make and receive payments and send money abroad, making it a potential game changer for those without access to traditional banks.
I want to pay my friend and they're in Colombia and I'm in Panama. So I press pay, go into my contacts, and the network knows who they are. They have a digital identity as well. That's it. Then I just tell them, how much do I want to pay? And I hit pay.
LACchain could also help when disaster strikes. Distributing government aid to victims of natural disasters can be slow and expensive. But with LACchain, funds could arrive in a flash.
They have an app on their phone where you can just push the money straight to it. Right? It doesn't cost you any of that. It's immediate. As long as they've got mobile phone service, then they've got money they can spend with a QR code, right, in the grocers and the shops, so they can buy food, they can buy water, they can buy all of the things that they need directly with their phone on the day.
LACchain is about more than just financial inclusion. It's also designed to arm people with the digital tools they need to thrive in the modern world. Something like a digital ID card, which can be tough to get and isn't always transferable between countries.
It's a much bigger idea, really, because the whole point of this regional network, and a lot of them actually, is to bring a lot of what people's lives are, which are in lots of separate different areas, bring them together, make them easier, make everything easier. So you're traveling between regions, doing business with other countries, making payments between countries. It lowers these kind of the big walls that you have, the big walls of red tape, really, between countries within that region.
Quant will help officially launch the LACchain project in 2023, with the potential to rocket an entire region into the future.
We're going to share this next part, and this is recent news. So I saw this. This is massive. This is, again, some more things that flew under the radar that I guess some people just didn't realize. On April 11th, right, Citi from Citigroup predicted that 4 trillion of tokenized assets, there will be 4 trillion of tokenized assets, I should say. So the banking giant, which is Citigroup, expects 4 trillion to 5 trillion of tokenized digital securities and 1 trillion of distributed ledger technology-based trade finance volumes by 2030. Technically speaking, you can even throw XTC into that mix because what they got going on when it comes to trade. US-based Citigroup released a report basically in March that outlined the future of asset tokenization and the blockchain economy. In the report, Money, Tokens, and Games, blockchain's next billion users and trillions in value, the bank articulates an inflection point, quote, where the promised potential of blockchain will be realized and the measured in billions of users and trillions of dollars in value. Now, in regards to Citi, they expect tokenization to be the main driver in the blockchain space, one that will mobilize the entire industry into mass adoption. Let's face it, we're always talking about regulatory clarity, right? We want that mass adoption, especially from that particular sector. Its report predicts that, quote, tokenization of financial and real-world assets could be the killer use case driving blockchain breakthrough with tokenization is expected to grow by a factor of, listen to this, 80 times in private markets and reach up to almost 4 trillion American dollars in value by 2030. Well, Max, the American dollar won't be worth that much by then. Well, hopefully we get our crap together, as Coach JV basically says, and everything will be back to where it needs to be by that particular time. I'm not a fortune teller, but to me that might possibly make sense. We'll see how it goes. All right, here's another quote. They forecast 4 trillion to 5 trillion of tokenized digital securities and 1 trillion of distributed ledger technology-based trade finance volumes by 2030. The firm's analysts write, of the up to 5 trillion of tokenized, the bank estimates 1.9 trillion will come in the form of debt. Who has been saying this for the longest time? Well, Mike Cornwell, who also says it a lot. Lewis Jackson, aka Crypto Lulu, who also says it a lot. Coach JV, who also says it a lot. I imagine, I'm not going to quote him, but I imagine maybe even Crypto Hulk. But the point is, whether it's rich, common sense crypto, what's the narrative? The narrative is this actually is a real thing, right? It's a near real thing. It's no BS. So who would be taking on that debt? Will it be, for instance, Ripple's XRP? Some people say that that would make sense, right? You have to have a solution for Nostra Vostra. We get the whole thing. Anyway, there's more in regards to this. This is a quant segment. Next part, 1.5 trillion from real estate, 0.7 trillion from private equity and venture capital, and between 0.5 to roughly 1 trillion from even securities, right? And again, draw your own conclusion on what particular digital assets are tied into those particular technologies. Some of you guys already know about that, right? All right, this real quick, this future of money. Why are we mentioning all this stuff, and especially if it's dated back on April 11th? Well, again, nobody was reporting this particular article, but man, it's a perfect outline for what's been going on recently here today in recent news. So the future of money, I think we're right at the cusp of that future money, especially when it comes to quant, and especially when it comes to understanding what the heck is going on with these CBDCs and so on, right? They definitely are a big, big player when it comes to that. And let's face it, I mean, you know, quant is so much more than just about CBDCs, APIs, you name it, right? They got a lot going on. So it says a lot of their focus at Quant is on the new digital currencies and payment systems because they believe they hold enormous promise. Citi's report endorses this, stating that a key area of where blockchain/DLT will make significant impact is in just that, digital money. The world money is being turned on its head with central bank digital currencies coming our way towards the second half of this decade, with many CBDC projects being partially DLT linked. Now, here's the thing. We knew that a lot of things were going to be mentioned when it came to quant with CBDCs, whether it's LEC chain, whether it's going to be a digital pound, or heck, even a digital dollar in the distant future. But at some point, especially when it comes to LEC chain, they're definitely going to stand out. Now, this whole talk about, China, all this time, I should say, especially like at the beginning, midpoint, and late last year, a lot of people are like, China, they claim that, they're banning all this stuff and they're not going to use it, but they are going to use it. And when we get to the Ripple outline tonight, you're going to find out, wow, yeah, how like they lie about a lot of things, right? Especially when it comes to the UN or, what they're doing, they just don't volunteer things, right? Some people call it lies, call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, they're going to do whatever the heck they feel like doing, and they are doing something. So this statement, get ready for CBDC versions of the euro, the British pound, like I was talking about earlier, and how about this, the Indian rupee. Together, these four jurisdictions constitute more than 25% of the global population and 22% of even bank deposits. Everybody that's complaining and saying, you know what, I want, no offense, Henry Brown, to like some of your buddies and so on, right? I don't see nothing going on in the price. Again, this is a perfect reiteration of why you don't see nothing going on in the price. It's that utility not being used. But if we're getting implementation going on and we're having a country that's literally onboarding through a, they're in the pilot testing. And the next thing is you're going to have, what did it say? Something like a big percentage of mainland China is going to be using this new CBDC, and they're going to be paying their citizens out. Well, this talk of this is in the distant future, man, came a lot more quicker than we thought. So, like it says, hence we think CBDCs could have at least 2 billion users and 5 trillion plus in circulation. Excuse me. And half could be using, listen to this, partly distributed ledger technology linked models. What models could those be? Again, you've done the research. You already know. I don't have to preach to the choir. But why is the U.S. third largest bank so bullish on CBDCs? Hence the Citigroup article. That's a great question. Well, it's part of this outline, and we're going to do some key highlights for this outline. For one, more big countries are catching up. Very, very true. Who are those big countries? Well, like it says right here, you have, for instance, China. But like it states, initially only a few smaller island nations and Nigeria launched CBDCs. And of course, China was in advanced stages of researching and piloting a CBDC. They just didn't go ahead and volunteer it to the whole world. Now, why would that be? Maybe because they're trying to position themselves based off a domino effect, right? You saw that particular interview, right, about a few days ago, where it shows, shout out to Crypto Mike, shows literally Xi Jinping. He's got an interpreter with him. He's meeting up with Vladimir Putin. Their hands shaking. They're saying something like, this is the first time in 100 years. There's going to be a shift. Come on, guys. You've been part of this. Shout out to all the new people if you haven't been part of this. That's why we pay attention to all this stuff. That's why we pay attention to what's going on with the BRICS nations and so on, right? So it's no disrespect, but when you see people say like, wake up, yeah, you got to wake up to some of this stuff. There's a difference between publicly mentioning things as far as like NDAs, as far as like a cryptocurrency project from like the private sector and so on. And there's another to be said about when it comes to, BRICS nations or, huge economies that have over 1 billion in population just come out and saying, oh yeah, we're going to use a CBDC, right? They have all the reasons in the world for keeping that private. Maybe this is one of those particular reasons. We'll see. Now it states, now major countries are, in terms of economy, currency, and population size, are warming up to the idea of CBDCs. True. For example, central banks in India, the UK, and Europe have been making plans to launch CBDCs before the end of the decade. Billions of users, taking into account only Europe, India, and the UK. Yeah, let's just scratch the surface. There are about 2 billion individuals and businesses that could be using some form of CBDC. Businesses in countries with multi-CBDC bridge arrangements would also be using DLT linked CBDCs, although their domestic CBDCs could be non-DLT linked. All right, let's talk about the technology just for a brief bit. And then after this, we'll kick it back to the comments for a brief bit, because I don't understand there's a lot of material here. Again, smash that like if you haven't done so already. Hopefully you appreciate some of these deep dives. But look what it says in regards to technology. Until now, only the smaller CBDC projects have been based on distributed ledger technology. However, we can envision some major banks issuing DLT-based CBDCs, and India's retail CBDCs could also have some sort of DLT. What would be a perfect example of that? Bank of International Settlements, maybe JP Morgan here in the future, right? We understand they got the thing going on with Quorum. All that stuff makes sense, right? So it says China's participation in the MCBDC bridge is based on what? A distributed ledger technology. All right, let's talk about the money, because we just talked about the tech. What about the money? First, you got to get the money, then you get the power. Once you get the power, well, in this case, China, right? You do what the heck you want to do. They already have been. So central banks estimate up to 20% of deposits could transition to newer digital money formats. We could have 5 trillion of CBDC circulating in major economies in the world in this decade, half of which could potentially be DLT linked. And boom, there you go. Now, why did Max say boom, there you go? If we understand when it comes to all this that it's all about utility being utilized, then if you have half of which could be potentially DLT linked, let's cut that in half for all the speculators. Let's say it's 25%. You have 25% of all of the money being utilized. You can draw your own conclusion of, wow, that's an insane amount of market cap. What particular projects are tied into these sectors? Quant, Ripple, Stellar. You could throw in some of these other particular ones and so on, right? But the key thing is, who are the bigger players that are involved through DLT? Who are the bigger players that have invested into blockchain who claim that they don't? JP Morgan, some of the other ones. You get where I'm going with this? All right. The world's assets will be tokenized. We'll talk about this for a quick moment. Then the next part, we will kick it back in the comments. This is good stuff. So the world's assets will be tokenized. Guess what? They are being tokenized. We have a great show still lined up for you guys, especially that Ripple segment. Currencies are not only the type of asset that benefit from tokenization. Citi's report makes it clear that quants, yes, quants, stop freaking denying quant. My God, some people are so speculative about this crap. Why are you being so speculative about it? Just saying. It's literally there, you know, oh, that's just from the quant side, whatever. Clear that quant's conviction about tokenization is well-founded too. Listen to this quote, and I'll reiterate it. Almost anything of value can be tokenized. We talked about this, especially when it comes to LCX. They tokenize physical assets and they digitalize them, right? But this is not about LCX. So it says, from wine to financial assets to everything in between, write the bank's analyst, quote, the significant benefits of tokenization, especially for private funds and even securities, will likely drive demand side uptake, leaving behind expensive reconciliations and settlement failures while embracing operational efficiencies, fractionalization, and accessibility to a wider range of market participants. Who are the market participants? How about this? What countries are part of those market participants? Now, we got some proof, basically, that you know, China lied, right? Russia lied, right? Those are some of the market participants. Hello, are we not paying attention? We should be. Beyond private market tokenization, we expect 1 trillion of the repo, securities, financing, and collateral market could be tokenized by 2030. By 2030, is it game over? Could very well be. If you haven't accumulated long before then, it could be, right? And we'll be talking about other projects. Like, we'll be talking about maybe Web 4 at that point. I don't know how fast that's going to come. Last but not least, the path to the future. How can industry achieve the benefits of blockchain? According to Citigroup's and analysts, mainstream adoption, this is key, guys, because we're always talking about mainstream adoption. That requires enablers including decentralized digital identities, zero knowledge proofs, oracles, and secure bridges. Legal plumbing. Remember how Crypto Smith always talking about the plumbing? Think about this. It's beautiful, ain't it? Legal plumbing is also essential, as are regulatory considerations to allow adoption and scalability without, quote, hindering innovation. And damn it, what the hell is going on as we speak in the United States? We have the hindering of innovation, hence why you saw all last week the talks of, am I going to take my company to Europe? You know, and it just doesn't stop there. The U.S. needs to get their freaking crap together. Now, if they're working in the background, we don't know about it, you sure as the heck got us fooled. Now, could this be an example of that the United States is working in the background and they're pulling a China out of the, you know, like a rabbit out of the hat, kind of like China basically recently did, where you make the whole world believe that you're really not embracing crypto or, you know, distributed ledger technology and so on, blockchain? Possibly, but I think for the most part, most people are fooled. What's the percentage? I would say it's a given of 90% or more.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have not yet subscribed, do yourself a favor and subscribe for more information on the ISO 222 compliant tokens, and hit the notification bell to make sure that you are aware of the new videos when they come up. Max and I cover these ISOs, and we also have a live show every single night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in for that. You won't want to miss it. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next video.